Let us for some time concentrate our mind on the Divine Lord and pray for the welfare of the whole humanity. Shanti Shanti Hari Om Tat Sat Om Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avataravariштhaya Ramakrishna Te Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the Supreme God Incarnate, the establisher of universal religion. Let us pray to him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, from death to immortality. Sri Ramakrishna visited Keshav Chandra Sen, who had become a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. The whole life of Keshav Chandra Sen was turned into a life of spirituality under the loving guidance of Sri Ramakrishna. Keshav Chandra Sen was very eminent and very reputed person who was the founder of Brahma Samaj. Sri Ramakrishna used to call him and his followers as modern Brahmagyanis. Anyway, wherever there is skill, intelligence, glory, power, as Lord Krishna tells in the Vibhuti Yoga, it is the supreme power of God only that manifests that way. So Sri Ramakrishna recognized some of these great people of the time. He himself would go to them, and by his utter simplicity and realization of the divine, those people would be completely fascinated by Sri Ramakrishna's wonderful power of teachings. He would correct them, little corrections here and there, so that their life becomes fulfilled. So, from this point of view, Sri Ramakrishna's advent is very unique. So having come to this life, we need not have to worry about or feel miserable in any manner, because God has given us the opportunity through this human life. In fact, God, out of His infinite grace, He is giving us a golden opportunity so that we may pursue the spiritual path and arrive at the abode of supreme bliss. Well, the spiritual journey is long way off. Let us not be emotional or become restless, a sort of tension that we have not been able to go ahead in our path properly. We don't know whether we would be able to reach the goal or not. So the Mahatmas come, Sri Ramakrishna has come and giving the assurance that no effort is wasted. It has got immense value. Even if we have uttered the divine name once, it has got its value, it has got its effect on our personality. When Keshu Chandra Sen and Sri Ramakrishna were talking on spiritual matters, in a way Sri Ramakrishna was giving spiritual instructions to Keshu Chandra Sen so that his mind may rise above the body which was ailing. And Sri Ramakrishna makes a remark that this illness which Keshu Chandra Sen has got is because of the upsurge of the spiritual power. A tremendous transformation is taking place in the inner personality of Keshu Chandra Sen, an account of the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. So that spiritual force is engulfing the whole system, and the body is not able to withhold that tremendous power rising in the inner personality of Keshu Chandra Sen. So, body is suffering. Then the mother comes there and she requests Sri Ramakrishna to bless Keshu Chandra Sen so that he may be free from illness. And Sri Ramakrishna answers that blessings are given only by the Supreme God Himself. Of course, Sri Ramakrishna Himself is that Supreme God, but he is referring to Divine Mother Kali, and he is advising them to pray to the Divine Mother, the bestower of all bliss. She will take away all your troubles. We may be in any trouble, but once we develop that prayerful attitude, once we learn how to pray, you are completely saved from all troubles. Sri Ramakrishna tells, every prayer is being heard by God, and He is guarantee for that statement. So what He wants us to understand God's grace, we should cultivate love of God. We love the world, and so we are bound to be in some troubles. As long as we have a body, we must experience some kind of disease, sorrow, fear, pain, and all sorts of sufferings. Body is subject to all such things. If we are to get relief from all the troubles, we must hold on to God. Troubles in the physical level, troubles in the mental level. All these troubles can be overcome when we develop love of God. And whenever we utter the name of God, let us do it wholeheartedly and with all devotion. One thing we should learn, coming to this world, we will have to pass through the school of adversity. We learn much from our troubles. Sri Ramakrishna said, iron must be heated again and again and hammered 100 times before it becomes good steel. Then only it becomes fit to be made into a sharp sword and can be bent in any way we like. So, man must be heated several times in the furnace of tribulations and hammered with the persecutions of the world before he becomes pure and humble and fit to enter the province of God. Then only he is qualified to enter the presence of God. Then only he becomes qualified to experience the most wonderful bliss. So, Sri Ramakrishna is telling very clearly, if we are sensing any problem or trouble or difficulties or dangers, go to God and pray. Pray with all devotion. You will become all right. Second point which Sri Ramakrishna says, all depends on God's will. See, it's a very important and significant statement. That is why the holy people, those who have practiced yoga or those who have advanced in spiritual achievements, they become aware of past, present, future. They know the future events. So everything is set. It goes on those lines. They can predict very clearly if they want to, really. That shows even the movement of the grass, the blade of grass, is by the will of God. So everything happens at His will. Many clever persons were born in this world. But what has been their end? Everything comes about and is destroyed at the supreme will of God. So He is creating this whole universe and all the beings in order to make them understand that they belong to Him. That is to say, the Divine Lord is making us His own. He is always in that process of getting us into Him. So, He will not allow even the slightest ego to remain within us. The sufferings and the difficulties we are undergoing are intended to make us realize that we have no independent will of our own. It's all given over to the Lord. Therefore, we should be contented with what He does and wherever He keeps us. That is the intelligent way of getting through in this life. Divine Providence, no doubt, has given the sense of free will and the principle of karma. If people don't feel that they have free will, they will not be able to do anything. So, God Himself has given that sense. It is left to man to do as he wishes. If he chooses to do actions which bring him less happiness and more misery, he alone is responsible, not God. The mainspring of our personality is will. Will. Very important point we should underline. I am what I am because of my will. For realizing itself, the personality has needed of some dynamism, and so the will divides itself into two. One may ask, how can there be two free wills? In action there are two, but in essence it is one free will only. To give an example, every time we move, it's only one leg that takes the decision. We must have two alternatives to decide on one, even as we must have two legs to advance one forward, while we rest on one. So, in essence, it's only one free will. The interaction or interpenetration or integration between the two free wills, which gives the dynamism of life, the grand variety of choice between two certitudes, becomes possible if only we have two free wills. We say we have chosen such and such a thing or alternative. Both the things present before us and we choose. One will tells go this way, another will says no, I shall go this way. In reality, we have chosen one of the free wills and not the object. When our being chooses to be creative, it divides itself into two, and this division is to serve its own purpose, to realize its own goal. The moment the desire for creation rises, there is duality. Creation and duality are not the real state of being, they are only its dynamism. Above creation is unity, God, the God above creation and manifestation. So, if we know the reality as such, then there should not be any problem or difficulty in going through the path, even though we might have to pass through many difficulties on the way. Total reliance on the divine, total surrender to the Supreme Divine, completely identifying ourselves with the Paramatman, with the divine form whom we are worshipping, we should be able to pass on in this spiritual journey. And in spite of the difficulties, we will be enjoying bliss, joy and happiness come to us. We will be able to face all the problems in the life. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling, under all circumstances, pray to God. Pray to God. He will bless. He will bestow His grace. He will remove all the difficulties in our life and grants peace and joy. So these are the 2 points which I thought must be explained, so I have done. Page number 324. On his way to Dakshineshwar from Keshav's cottage, Sri Ramakrishna stopped at Jai Gopal Sen's house. It was about 7 o'clock in the evening. In the drawing room, Jai Gopal's relatives and neighbors had gathered. Vaikunta, Jai Gopal's brother, said to the master, "Sir, we are worldly people. Please give us some advice." Sri Ramakrishna said, "Do your duty to the world after knowing God. With one hand hold to the lotus feet of the Lord, and with the other do your work." Vaikunta asked, "Is the world unreal?" Sri Ramakrishna answered, "Yes, it is unreal as long as one has not realized God. Through ignorance, man forgets God and speaks always of I and mine. He sinks down and down, entangled in Maya, deluded by lust and gold. Maya robs him of his knowledge to such an extent that he cannot find the way of escape, though such a way exists. When such delusion veils the world through Mahamaya's spell, that Brahma is bereft of sense and Vishnu loses consciousness, and what hope is left for men? You all know from your experience how impermanent the world is. Look at it this way. How many people have come into the world and again passed away? People are born and they die. This moment the world is, and the next it is not. It is impermanent. Those you think to be your own, very own, will not exist for you when you close your eyes in death. Again, you see people who have no immediate relatives, and yet for the sake of a grandson, they will not go to Benares to lead a holy life. Oh, what will become of my Haru? Then they argue. The narrow channel first is made, and there the trap is set. But open though the passage lies, the fish once safely through the gate do not come out again. Yet, even though a way leads forth, encased within its own cocoon, the worm remains to die. This kind of world is illusory and impermanent. A neighbor said, "Why, sir, should one hold to God with one hand and to the world with the other? Why, sir, should one hold to God with one hand and to the world with the other? Why should one even stretch out one hand to hold to the world if it is impermanent? Master said, the world is not impermanent if one lives there after knowing God. Listen to another song. O mind, you do not know how to farm. Fallow lies the field of your life. If you had only worked it well, how rich a harvest you might reap. Hedge it about with Kali's name, if you would keep your harvest safe. This is the stoutest hedge of all, for death himself cannot come near it. Did you listen to the song? Hedge it about with Kali's name, if you would keep your harvest safe. Surrender yourself to God and you will achieve everything. This is the stoutest hedge of all, for death himself cannot come near it. Yes, it is a strong hedge indeed. If you but realize God, you won't see the world as unsubstantial. He who has realized God knows that God himself has become the world and all living beings. When you feed your child, you should feel that you are feeding God. You should look on your father and mother as veritable manifestations of God and the Divine Mother and serve them as such. If a man enters the world after realizing God, he does not generally keep up physical relations with his wife. Both of them are devotees. They love to talk only of God and pass their time in spiritual conversation. They serve other devotees of God, for they know that God alone has become all living beings, and knowing this, they devote their lives to the service of others. Neighbor said, but sir, such a house, husband and wife are not to be found anywhere. Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, they can be found, though they may be very rare. Worldly people cannot recognize them. In order to lead such a life, both husband and wife must be spiritual. It is possible to lead such a life if both of them have tasted the bliss of God. God's special grace is necessary to create such a couple. Otherwise there will always be misunderstanding between them. In that case, the one has to leave the other. Life becomes very miserable if husband and wife do not agree. The wife will say to her husband day and night, why did my father marry me to such a person? I can't get enough to eat or to feed my children. I haven't clothes enough to cover my body or to give to my children. I haven't received a single piece of jewelry from you. How happy you have made me. You keep your eyes closed and mutter the name of God. Now do give up all these crazy ideas. Devotee asked, there are such obstacles, certainly. Besides, the children may be disobedient. There is no end of difficulties. Now, sir, what is the way? Sri Ramakrishna answered, it is extremely difficult to practice spiritual discipline and at the same time lead a householder's life. There are many handicaps, disease, grief, poverty, misunderstanding with one's wife or husband, disobedient, stupid, and stubborn children. I don't have to give you a list of them. But still there is a way out. One should pray to God, going now and then into solitude and make efforts to realize Him. Neighbors asked, must one leave home then? Sri Ramakrishna answered, no, not altogether. Whenever you have leisure, go into solitude for a day or two. At that time, don't have any relations with the outside world and don't hold any conversation with worldly people on worldly affairs. You must live either in solitude or in the company of holy men. Neighbor asked, how can one recognize a holy man? Sri Ramakrishna said, he who has surrendered his body, mind and innermost self to God is surely a holy man. He who has renounced lust and gold is surely a holy man. He is a holy man who does not regard woman with the eyes of a worldly person. He never forgets to look upon a woman as his mother and to offer his worship if he happens to be near her. The holy man constantly thinks of God and does not indulge in any talk except about spiritual things. Furthermore, he serves all beings knowing that God resides in everybody's heart. These in general are the signs of a holy man. Neighbor asked, "Must one always live in solitude?" Sri Ramakrishna said, "Haven't you seen the trees on the footpath along a street? They are fenced around as long as they are very young. Otherwise cattle destroy them. But there is no longer any need of fences when their trunks grow thick and strong. Then they won't break, even if an elephant is tied to them. Just so, there will be no need for you to worry and fear if you make your mind as strong as a thick tree trunk. First of all, try to acquire discrimination. Break the jackfruit open only after you have rubbed your hands with the oil. Then its sticky milk won't smear them." Neighbor asked, "What is discrimination?" Sri Ramakrishna said, "Discrimination is the reasoning by which one knows that God alone is real and all else is unreal. Real means eternal and unreal means impermanent. He who has acquired discrimination knows that God is the only substance and all else is non-existent. With the awakening of this spirit of discrimination, a man wants to know God. On the contrary, if a man loves the unreal, such things as creature comforts, name, fame and wealth, then he doesn't want to know God, who is of the very nature of reality. Through discrimination between the real and the unreal, one seeks to know God." Let us stop here. Anything to say about free will? Do you have any comments to speak about free will? What is your idea? Do you agree there is a free will, or do you think there is no free will at all? But God Himself has allowed people to have some free will. That's why they say, I am doing this, I am doing that. But when they come to trouble, they should not show the finger to God. You are coming to trouble because you did it. You did, because of your own will. Yeah, that's true. In fact, the person who has completely surrendered everything to God can never commit any wrongdoing or any wicked action because of his total surrendering to God. So that is the one way of understanding or seeing people. But in this modern times it is so difficult to recognize such people. But anyway, at least if we know that this is the way, this is the attitude we must have, then it makes matter easy. Otherwise, no day goes without suffering. But if we have this philosophical attitude, then whatever may be the suffering, you won't be affected by it. That's the beauty. That's why I refer to school of. So you are passing to the school of adversity. So the idea is, by some method or other, we should be able to come to God. That's one way of putting. Another way of putting is, God Himself draws us. He has got various methods. Accordingly, He draws people towards Him. But anyway, we should not think that we are not able to go through spiritual journey. No. That's the first step. Everybody should try to go in the spiritual path, whatever walk of life one may be. That's the only way to get real joy, real peace, real happiness. That's what Sri Ramakrishna tells again and again. But as I said in this class, that the idea of two free wills, both of them present to us, both the ideas come to us. But how to decide? If our life is not well established on spiritual ideas, then we choose the wrong thing. Otherwise we choose the right thing. Though both the good and bad appear before us, though we know very well that that is bad, yet we run after that. So like that, the free will divides itself into two and creates all sorts of things. No, see, as long as you are in the body, you can't be without free will. Ego will be there. As long as you are in the body, mind will be there. So it functions. But how you function, that is important. Ego is there, but how do you manipulate that ego? That's important. So if you make that ego subservient to God, then it is as good as telling God's will. In fact, if you take Sri Ramakrishna's life, even if he wants to say, he would always say, Mother wills, it will be done. If Mother wills, it will be done. Because at no point of time he wants to assert his ego. So like that he is showing us the way. Because we don't know when we become egoistic. More so, particularly when you are living a spiritual life. Just because you are able to practice little meditation and prayer, it doesn't mean that you should broadcast all over the world that you are a saint. There are so many gurus, Jagat Gurus are there. I am really surprised. Everybody wants to be called as a guru. And he takes pride in that. So how we are degenerating the spiritual values. So the real quality is not in advertisement. It is in actual life. In actual life, how you behave, how you act, how you live, that determines your spirituality. Not your publication in the New York Times or Chicago Tribune. If Chicago Tribune publishes as a saint, you become a saint. Next day he will say, oh, that great saint whom we published yesterday, he committed a great blunder. Like that he will put. One is immature ego, another is mature ego. The point is, all this differentiation comes because when you function in a particular way, to pinpoint the ways, we give different names. It's just like the prana. So the breathing, prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana, the same breath, the same wind has 5 names depending upon its function. Though it is one, it appears as 5. To understand, depending on the function. In the same way, ego also. In the same way, free will also. What I understand. Anyway, we can. It's a very important subject. It's a very important and very big subject, free will. In fact, we need to discuss more, if necessary, in the next class. It's a very interesting subject. I am not elaborating more because there will be many occasions to deal with this subject. So instead of exhausting the whole thing at one time, part by part we can do and understand the things, so that you will understand also slowly. That's the idea. Anyway, to understand that everything is according to God's will, you need spiritual development. Unless we have developed to a certain level, we will not be able to know that everything is done according to God's will. Anyway, see, apana is the wind that goes through the lower organ, through the lower limb, and the prana is the breath which you are taking, inhalation and exhalation. That's called pranavayu. Because if that stops, man dies. So prana, apana. Vyana is the air that is all pervading in the system, which keeps the system functioning because of the air. If the air is not there inside, air, water, all the things must be inside. Otherwise, body cannot function. So one vayu, it helps digestion of the food that we take. And the other vayu is when the soul leaves the body, it goes up. So the upward journey, that's one vayu. So like this function of these different vayus are very well explained in Chandogya Upanishad. Nicely given, very nicely dealt with. And more than these 5, there are other more upapranas are there. They have got different names. They have got different other names also. But anyway, everything is well defined. Everything is well defined. Any question? On that subject. Yeah. Well, we shall stop at this. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when an instant's separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stealest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy. May all be free from disease. May all realize what is good. May none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous attain tranquility. May the tranquil be free from bonds. May the freed make others free. May good betide all people. May the sovereign righteously rule the earth. May all beings ever attain what is good. May the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time. May the earth be blessed with crops. May all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being really pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.